Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, the unrelenting criticism of the Women's March leaders continues. This time, folks are now targeting Tamika Mallory because of what she said on the PBS show Firing Line. Here's her talking to Margaret Hoover.
The Palestinians are native to the land. You know, they were there for a very long time, and so they're native to the land.
Do you feel that the Jewish people are native as well?
I mean, I understand the history that, you know, that there are people who have a number of sort of ideologies around why the Jewish people feel this should be their land. I'm not Jewish, so for me to speak to that is not fair.
If you're willing to say that the Palestinians are native but not the Jews are native, I mean, you're not Palestinian either.
Because I'm speaking of the people who we know are being brutally oppressed in this moment. That's just the reality.
Is it your view that Israel has a right to exist as a nation?
I have said many times that I feel everyone has a right to exist. I feel everyone has a right to exist. I just don't feel that anyone has a right to exist at the disposal of another group.
In your view, does that include Israelis in Israel?
I believe that all people have the right to exist and that Palestinians are also suffering with a great crisis, and that there are other Jewish scholars who will sit here and say the same. I'm done talking about this, so
okay.
You can move.
I just don't think it requires scholarly knowledge to be able to say that Israel has a right to exist.
Again, I believe everyone has the right to exist.
So because Tamika did not say these words, Israel has a right to exist, and because she said repeatedly, everyone has a right to exist, now people, Joe Madison, are calling her anti-Semitic because she didn't specifically say the words, Israel has a right to exist. When you say everyone, and now they're trying to say, oh, this is an all lives matter thing. What do you now make of this?
Well, let us understand one thing, and anyone who's been to Israel, and I've been there, and I've discussed and talked and debated, and I've also been to the East Bank. Tamika is absolutely right. There are individuals in Israel who are Jewish that believe that Palestinians have certain rights. There's an organization that I was familiar with and met with their mothers of war victims, and they have an organization called Bridge. And they're trying to resolve some of these serious questions that was put to Tamika. So she was right. There are scholars, there are individuals, there are politicians who, in essence, have taken the same position that she has taken. You don't hear it much in this country, but that is exactly what exists. And it's a big debate, even among Jewish people. So let's put that aside. Tamika was on my show today, and I asked her about this. And the reality is that this has nothing to do with the march that the women have, in fact, organized. The women have issues and platforms that need to be addressed, and to throw this into the middle to attempt to divide the agenda that women are very concerned about as it relates to public policy is just absolutely, totally unfair. And she did point out, look, find a march. So if there's one group over here that wants to march and they disagree with this group over here over a particular policy, then go ahead and march with that group. But this is a matter of remaining focused on women's issues.
So, Ray, again, when I saw this on social media as I was flying to Chicago, when we landed, I saw my Twitter feed. And so now the test now is you have to say the words,
yes,
Israel has a right to exist. Yet, how many people are asked the question, do Palestinians have a right to exist? I mean, see, that to me is why this, and what people also, I think, don't understand is that there's a very long history of African Americans identifying with the Palestinian people, because you can go back to Andrew Young when he was UN ambassador,
right,
when he secretly met with them. Andrew Young said before he got back to his office, the Israeli spy agency Mossad already had a transcript that was in the hands of officials in Washington, D.C. by the time he got back. He had to resign from office. When you think about 1984, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. bringing this issue to the fore in the presidential campaign. And because Black people understand oppression. Black people understand living in a place under oppression, and it's as if people don't understand that Black folks get this.
Roland, you're absolutely correct, and I appreciate the history lesson you laid out there. One thing that any sophisticated thinking citizen in the United States is going to have to do around this question, because it's beginning to bubble up in ways that means that we're going to have a serious conversation about this. And we cannot simply have Blacks and Jews can get along. Look at examples of Reverend King and Rabbi Herschel. We're going to have to go beyond that and have a more sophisticated talk. And that talk has to be able to delineate and bifurcate Judaism as a relationship, Jewish human beings, and white supremacy functioning as a state in Israel. Does Israel as a nation, do the people there have a right to exist? Of course, because as Tamika and others said, every human being has a right to exist. Should white supremacy in the form or hiding behind a religion continue to promulgate throughout Israel, throughout the West Bank, throughout Gaza, and even throughout parts of the United States? No. And as you alluded to, Roland, Black Americans particularly, and people of African descent throughout the world, understand what it's like to be the oppressed people, understand what it's like to be boxed out, and so we will side with those who are the oppressed, right? Where there are the oppressed, so shall we be. And we've seen this happen first with Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. We saw this happen with the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute and their reneging of Angela Davis's award, and now we're seeing it happen with Tamika Mallory. And for too often, the folks who are making this claim are not doing so out of any sincerity of conviction of their religion as an ethnicity or a group of people, but instead they're using their religion, a noble and decent honor one, to shield their white supremacy.
Now, and let me bring, can I bring up one other point? You didn't,
I do want to add this.
South Africa.
Joe,
I wanted to bring up South Africa.
I was about to bring that up too, but go ahead.
Okay, all right. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I know, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I want folks to also remember one of the major debates we had during the apartheid movement was Israel's support for the South African regime. And we had that major debate. So, you know, let's be honest when we had this discussion. You are absolutely right. We need to understand this is a serious discussion. We have the right to identify with oppressed people. I'll say it here. Yes, Israel has a right to exist. But the reality, it needs to exist as a democratic country where all rights of all of its citizens are respected, and Palestinians are human beings, and they want respect and humanity. And so, you know, but I don't want people to, you know, forget that when South Africa was going through its anti-apartheid movement, man, I almost got thrown out of Israel because I took on at the time the prime minister about his support, and he looked at me like he could cut my throat.
Eugene, let me jump in real quick before you go. Former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert, after he came out of office, was on the record saying what's happening in Gaza is equivalent to apartheid in South Africa, which Brother Madison just mentioned. And I thought to myself upon reading that, I wish someone could do something about that. Who would be a good person who could stop what was happening from being like apartheid? Perhaps the Prime Minister of Israel could have done it. Ehud Olmert. I'm sorry, Eugene. Please go ahead.
You're fine. I got a couple quick hits. First and foremost, I guess all lives matter doesn't exist when it comes to this particular issue. I haven't seen a lot of these news anchors and journalists asking people, you know, do all lives matter? Do Black lives matter? The same way they're pressing out Tamika Mallory. I think we all believe that Israel has a right to exist, but so does the Palestinians, so do Christians in Muslim countries, so do Muslims in China. I mean, we believe that, oppressed people should not be oppressed. They should be as free as we are here in the United States. That's one of the beauty of the United States. But I'll take it a step further. How much is an ally as somebody that's spying on you? I mean, let's talk about that eventually. How much spying Israel does on the United States. It's not, one thing I don't, and this may offend some of my political connection over to Jay-Z, one thing I just don't understand is how, we rush to kiss the ring of when we neglect things here in the homeland. I mean, folk that will make this argument against Tamika Mallory were just 2 weeks ago defending Steve King. So, white supremacy and love of the Jewish people cannot coexist. But to take it further with the Women's March, because we're losing sight of that, in their actual platform, they give voice to the plight of Jewish women.
Right.
They give voice to the plight of Jewish women. And folk need to identify that and highlight that if you're going to come and press Tamika Mallory out on her affiliations that have absolutely nothing to do with the Women's March.
And on my show this morning, and I believe I'm totally accurate on this because I had a former president of a university tell me this. They were taking her on because of her relationship with Minister Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Do you know that Minister Farrakhan spoke at West Point?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anybody prepared to boycott the military academy. So let's let's understand, we're not all going to agree on everything when we form coalitions, but I bet folks are floored to find out that actually happened. He was invited to speak to West Point cadets.
But the thing,
Go ahead, Eugene.
The thing is this: as a society, as a country, as a nation, as a world, we have to come to the understanding that, hey, you can disagree with the policies, with the state, with the government of particular people, and not hate the people. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree with the phrase, hey, maybe we should be supporting a president or prime minister that's currently have charges against them for corruption, and Bibi Netanyahu.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.